Gemma, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
You're very welcome.
So, owner of Moonstone Games, designer of Plotalot, having successfully just funded your first game on Kickstarter, I think the
Yes.
first question after a big hearty congratulations needs to be, how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, good. So Kickstarter finished in June, and I've had a few months to decompress after the carnage of a 30-day campaign. And we're now into kind of producing the game, and the manufacturer's got the game, and we're waiting for it in the next couple of weeks. So that's really exciting. And yeah, I say we, it's me. It's just me on my own. And yeah, I kind of come down from the high of it now and settled into the idea that this is actually happening. And moving forward with the next steps.
Awesome. So I want to cast your mind back a little bit to when the Plotalot game first grew in your mind. Do you remember where that was, when that was?
Yeah, I was sat on the sofa at home and I just suddenly had this idea. I'd actually been developing or trying to develop a Top Trumps educational game for kids about food. So I had very recently left full-time employment and become a freelancer. And at the side, I'd been studying nutrition. I wanted to write about food and technology. So I'd had this idea that I wanted to create a card game for kids. And I sat waiting for a friend. She was late. And this idea came up in my head. I'd recently planted a vegetable patch. There was not enough room. And I was my cabbages were being torn to shreds by caterpillars. So I thought, this is just unreal. I'm trying so hard and it's not working. And I wrote down these few ideas for a game. And it kind of snowballed from there. And I really wanted to make something that my mum and dad would play with me and my brother, because we never played board games. I'm probably one of the few people that you interview that as a child, we didn't play board games. We watched TV. I lived on a farm. So if I wasn't watching Disney films, I was playing in the mud. And so I wanted to make something they would play with me at Christmas. We always used to just sit and watch telly and veg out, and I wanted to turn it off and make a game for us all. And this felt right. So I started making it. I had this crazy prototype on just plain cards. I'd drawn things on it. And we played it a lot. And before too long, they said, this is good. You should do something. And tried it with a few other people. And before you knew it, people said, go for it. So I got a designer in, and I had a few different designers. Some were so bad the game would never have happened if I'd continued. I didn't know cucumbers could look quite that bad. And I had a pigeon character in the game, and it looked like it was on something on one of the designers. But then I found Miriam, and she just took this game that I'd had in my head and made it what it is, and she just brought it to life. So we worked together, and then this year it felt right. It felt like the right time. I know the world was in carnage when I put it up, but everyone wanted a bit of, I don't know, they wanted games. They wanted time with their family. They were realizing that work wasn't as important. So maybe we should play more games. And I launched it at that point. So it was kind of, it felt right at the time to do it.
So what year are we talking when you're back on your couch creating this game?
Oh, so it was probably 2017, maybe 2018, when the kind of idea was flitting around in my head. But I thought, well, I'm never going to make this. This is not something I do. I'm a writer, and I can't tell stories this way. But I started to realize that the game was more about family time than it was about games as such. It was time away from stresses of life for 10 minutes. You know, my parents live on a farm, and that's a fairly busy, stressful life. Actually, to hunker down and play a game was something really nice about it. So it was for them to start with, and then it just grew into something else.
So how do you feel now? How does your family feel now that you're at the end of a successful Kickstarter? This crazy idea, which first was just for you, and then your family is now for the world.
They're really proud. They really pushed me to do it. My dad's always been keen on me having my own business, so he said, "Yeah, this is a way to have your own business." And Mum came up with the name. It was originally called Allotment Wars, and it was all about having your own allotment. But we thought Allotment Wars was, allotment's a very British word, and I wanted to get it out beyond Britain. And the word war was a bit oh, it was a bit harsh for a game for a family. So my mum said, what about Plotalot? And so she's really chuffed to see her word on a box somewhere.
Amazing.
And yeah, they're really proud. They're really pleased. And my brother's got one of the first editions that's got my notes on it, and he said, oh, this is going to be my little treat for life, to see the first edition that no one else has got. So they're really proud, which is great. And so initially the idea was a vegetable themed game, 100% plastic free, and I can't quite deliver that now. I've realized I'm completely single-use plastic free in my game, but the laminates involved with card games just aren't there yet, and that's fine. And my backers have been hugely supportive of me at least trying, and that's been brilliant. But yeah, I suppose my advice would be to just take your time and really think about what's important to you in the game you're trying to create.
What was important for you, it feels, was an honest game that was true to you, that followed your own personal ethos.
Yeah.
But I know it's also important to you that you speak as a voice of trying to encourage more women in games, be that design or artistry or publishing or writing or whatever it may be, to get more involved. And your game, with yourself designing it and Miriam with the artist and your mum creating the name.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great example to get that out to more people. What do you think holds back women from getting more involved? Because I certainly I'd say my gaming group is 50-50. So why is the design community not so equal?
Obviously I can't speak for everyone, but for me personally, it was a confidence thing. Being able to put a piece of myself out there amongst what is a fairly male-dominated design industry. And I hope that I don't want to become a poster woman for this, but I hope that more women do design and do take the chance to. Being a designer is fantastic, working around family life as well. You know, you're not tied to a full-time job. You're allowed to be creative and work it around whatever else you need to do in your life. And I think it's a fantastic way for women to express themselves. And we've all got a lot to say. You know, we've maybe got a different take on gaming as well, a more I don't know what the word is, but slightly kinder approach to gaming as well. A lot of traditional games might be a little bit more war focused, or there's, you know, a lot of games resource management, and sometimes they're quite take that games. And whilst mine has got elements of that for interaction, it is soft and kind, and it's family and it's warm. And I think that's what being a woman has brought to it, really. So I hope myself, and, you know, obviously the designer of Wingspan is also a woman, Elizabeth Hargreaves. So hopefully people like her as well are really showcasing that women can do this.
Absolutely. I mean, I was about to mention Elizabeth because I think she's a great example of how a game can be put to the mainstream in such a massive way. I mean, it won every award.
Yeah.
And that game has a similar sort of vibe. You know, it's, you know, the colors, the theme, the design, everything about it has a much more relaxed feel to it, and yet it still appeals to every gamer. And I guess that's maybe why your game has appealed so much too. It has that similar sort of sense of calm and relaxation, which I know is also important to you.
Yeah, I mean, the game is described as a bit of a enigma. A few reviewers have said, while the box looks calm, it's actually a box of chaos, and it is. I designed it in a way. I had some really nice, gentle cards in it, and I realised that what my family wanted was to be a bit take that, but actually that's where the interaction comes in. That's where the fun comes in, and I think that's really, really important. It's kind of at the time you're like, I'm going to get you, and you get me back, and but you've always got the opportunity to get back. And I love the mix of a natural game that's based on real life things as well. You know, in my game you have a polytunnel which protects you, and you have a pigeon which, you know, pigeons love cabbages and they always fly away with them. So in my game they do exactly the same thing, and you have aphids that halve the value of things, and that's based on real life. So it's kind of a real natural take that approach to things.
So do you use gaming yourself as a relaxation technique, a way to sort of take yourself away from the stresses of your day-to-day life?
Yeah, I mean, I when I was a kid, like I said, I didn't really play games and I wanted to play more. But as I got into adulthood, I found a couple of friends that were into gaming and kind of got me into it. And as everyone says, it was Catan and Carcassonne. Those are the two big gateways, and I found it a bit of an escape. I didn't necessarily love my jobs at the time, and I wanted a place where I could explore and be someone else, or just take half an hour away. And that's what they've become. And I think we've built this world of pressure around us, and games give us that time to play. And whilst it may seem like a childish thing to do, it's actually really important. Even adults need to play sometimes, just to keep themselves sane. So that's what gaming's become to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's so easy just to get home from work and lay on the couch and put Netflix on and just do nothing for 3 hours, and then someone the next day will say to you, "What did you do yesterday evening?" He's like, can't really remember. And then you do remember, and then you can't really remember what you watched or engaged. And then even if you did remember, was there any engagement with another human being there? Whereas games, puts people at a table, looking at each other in the eye, having a conversation. Such an important thing, I think, that reconnects people. It's been really powerful for me to do that, and it feels like your game is going to help a lot of people, families, couples, friends, do that too. That must make you feel so good.
I hope so. I mean, like I say, you design something and you know that some people are going to really like it, and not everyone's going to love it, but you hope that at least it brings people together. And the game is designed in a way that you really interact with people. You can't not interact with people. You have to play cards on them and all that kind of thing. So it's really designed to make people talk, put down the phone for a minute, turn off the TV, have a conversation. Even if it's I'm going to get you, it's it's still a nice fun thing to do together.
I mean, take that has a bad name. I don't like the name of it because it suggests negative connotations, I think. But the only time really I've had to take that game that wasn't for me was when there wasn't a chance to recover or get back, which your game I know doesn't have that problem. It's a frustrating term, and I think that's an important thing to talk about, where just terms and names of even simple mechanics can harm a game. But it seems like your game got out there. It broke through the clutter of Kickstarter, which is so hard to do. You haven't got a ton of miniatures. You didn't just chuck a load of money at it like other people did.
I didn't have it.
You let the game speak for itself. So what do you think it is? What do you think the game is saying? What are the game's sort of USPs? What makes the game fun?
Well, I mean, I tested it with loads of different people, and I took, in the very early days, I took it to game testing nights, and it got ripped to shreds, and it kept evolving into the better the game it is today. And I tested it with children, and I found that really interesting. So I think one of the USPs is that this game isn't just for your average gamer. It's for an older gamer who maybe knows nothing more than Monopoly or Cluedo and wants something to play with their family. Because the kids played it, and talking about that, take that, the kids were harsher and put more carnage into the game than any adult. An adult would look at it and think, right, strategy, how do I do this? How do I fill this plot? The kids are just wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, carnage. And that was great because the families that I played with just laughed. And that's what I wanted. I wanted people to laugh. And there's always an opportunity to come back. Very rarely do you have a game where you can't pull yourself back out. The scores are always very tight scores, and I love that. But I think also, and I made a big point on Kickstarter about the eco credentials. I tried to do it plastic free, and now I'm single use plastic free. The game comes in its own travel bag for our Kickstarter backers. So it's that play outside, take it with you aspect as well, which again, I think is really important. And then I've carbon offset the game as well. So there was that lovely element of do good for you, do good for your family, but also do good for the planet at the same time. And those are my kind of three things that I really wanted to get across and wrap them up in a game. It was kind of immaterial that it was a game. It's just I wanted to make something that allowed people to do those things, and it just so happened to come out in Plotalot.
That's amazing. I would suggest a lot of those things are quite unique in games on Kickstarter. I don't see many games lead with either of those things. I'd imagine a refreshing thing for some people.
I hope so, and I hope to continue it. I've got ideas for expansions. I've got ideas for new games which are in prototype stage, and I've got the bug. Initially I did Kickstarter and it was horrible. You kind of think, oh my God, what have I done? All these people all over the world, but it's such a brilliant community. And since then, the community on social media has been amazing and really supported the game. And it's really given me the confidence to say, you know what, I can be here and I can make even more games like this. And people want them. People, don't necessarily need a 3-hour strategic session on a game. And they also don't want a kind of Cards Against Humanity adult game. They maybe want something that the whole family can play. And I hope that I can start to fill that little space there.
I definitely think that's a space that needs more games, because there's so many party games and there's so many heavy Euro.
And they're great. I'm an Agricola fan through and through. It's my favourite game.
Sure.
But there are other people that maybe could get into board gaming and benefit that, that's not for them, and neither's the other side. So, mums, dads that want to play with the kids, or that even have a glass of wine when the kids go to bed and just want something to not watch telly with.
Definitely. And I think that family market is undersaturated, whereas the other two are oversaturated.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
It's an area of gaming, I think, that needs more. I think it's perhaps one of the many reasons why your game has been so successful. I play with my kids all the time, and there's so many games that I play with them that feel patronizing either to me or just too tough for them, that it's hard to find that sweet spot, that it feels like maybe that your game's done. So
yeah, the artwork was designed in that way for sure. It's artistic enough that an adult can really appreciate the detail, but then the heroes and villains of it are characterized so that they're not just a realistic aphid, they're actually an aphid character, so it would appeal to a child as well, but not in a way that's, like you say, patronizing to them or to you.
Absolutely. I'm definitely not going to let you get away with mentioning expansions and new games without asking any follow-up questions. Is there anything you can say at this point about the expansions for this? What stage are you at with those?
So I when I made the game initially, there were so many more cards to the game, and I really had to find a balance of getting this base game to really be slick in the way it works. And so there's a lot of those cards and even artwork that are still here on my computer that I loved at the time that maybe didn't quite make it into the base, but actually with a bit of tweaking, we can bring new elements to the game. I'd like to bring some different ways of interacting with each other into the game as well. So that base game is very much, as it is, a base game, and I would love to build on it. There's a whole world of different vegetables and different themes and different horticultural things you can add to the game, and I'm really inspired by my garden and things that happen to me, and I think, oh, that can be a mechanism for my game. I'll take that. So I'm always looking at different things and thinking, oh, I could add that in. So at the moment I'm building a pack of ideas, and I'll be testing those quite soon to maybe think about putting an expansion out at some point.
Awesome. And would that be a Kickstarter or straight to retail, do you think?
Depends. I think at the moment in my head, a Kickstarter, but we'll see how we get on, see if there's the opportunity to go straight to retail. Really depends on how people receive the game when they start receiving it.
Sure. Okay. And what about new stuff? What are the new games you're looking at? What kind of themes and worlds?
Oh, they're all. I'm a very so everything I look at, I'm walking around thinking, that could be a game, that could be a game. And I'm very kind of building mechanics off natural processes. So I'll see something and think, I could turn that into a game mechanic and build a theme around it. And I love games that are really, the mechanics are really deeply embedded into the theme. So again, with Plotalot, it's heavily based on gardening and what actually happens in gardening and turning that into a game. So I'm always looking at things, and I've got a couple in my head, couple at prototype stage of different games, but they're all very natural and animal based. I grew up on a farm, so there's kind of another farmy thinking game going on in my head as well. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if any of them get to this stage.
Exciting. Well, I'll look very closely to see how things develop. Last question, in terms of the Kickstarter backers, they're going to start getting their shipments in the autumn now, I know, and you're looking to get the game onto various sources for pre-order elsewhere. What would be your message to people watching this who maybe didn't back or haven't heard of the game until now? What would be your message to them to say, this is why I think you're going to like this game, this is why I think this game is going to be for you?
I think if you're looking for a game that you can play with your family, and that your daughter or son can be with grandma and you, and all of you can be playing together, and you want a huge amount of interaction on a real, it's an honest, natural themed game around vegetables. It might be a really good gift for someone who loves their garden, that kind of thing. Then it's definitely the game for you. I'm hoping, as I say, to get it out to pre-order with a few different places, but I just hope it gets people away from the telly for 5 minutes, or 20 minutes, as I should say. And I hope it brings a bit of laughter and a bit of joy to a table near me.
Amazing. Well, I wish you the very best with the game. It sounds amazing. Obviously, you've got a lot of backers who are right now very excited, waiting for the game.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of merch coming. So I've got my merch here that was with the Kickstarter campaign. So everything's ready to go. The games are nearly with me, and I'll be shipping them out as soon as I can with all the little extras that everyone got as well.
Amazing. Well, I think they're going to have a real treat coming through that door very, very soon. And then many other people hopefully soon will be able to pre-order and order from
I hope so, yeah.
Variety of channels. I wish you the very best with the game, Gemma, and I look forward to seeing what happens next. It's great to have you as a voice in the industry. I think it's brilliant what you're saying with the environmental things and trying to speak up for more women to have the confidence to do exactly what you've done, which is turn an idea into a fully funded, successful Kickstarter that is now going to retail. I think that's brilliant. Congratulations.
Thank you.